Namaskar, you're watching the special edition of DD Dialogue, our running series, our signature show DD Dialogue on national broadcaster Doordarshan, and continuing with talking about various challenges and parameters as far as containing COVID crisis is concerned. Today, in the next 1 hour or so, viewers, we're going to specifically focus on communication. Remember, the COVID crisis has also impacted the entire communication narrative with the emergence of new communication formats, new outreach programs and new strategies, all that coming up with their set of challenges. So overall, we are going to talk about, in this edition of DD Dialogue, this entire paradigm shift in communication at various levels, psychosocial level, mental level, behavioral changes. Is all that now going to be a new normal for us? And having said that, the challenges and the way forward that we are looking at. And why is this edition of DD Dialogue special? Because we have a very high-powered panel today from UNDP, from UNICEF, from Government of India. Let me have the pleasure of introducing my panelists of the show today. We are joined by UNDP India representative, Ms. Shoko Noda, on the show. Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're also joined by UNICEF India representative, Dr. Yasmin Ali Haq. Again, thank you so much, and namaste to you as well.
Namaste.
Very glad to have on the show MyGov.in CEO Shri Abhishek Singh. He's a Joint Secretary, Senior Bureaucrat, Government of India, and extremely glad to have with us on the show Joint Secretary, Panchayati Raj Ministry, Shri Alok Nagar. And of course, CEO Prasar Bharati, Shri Shashi Shekhar Vempati. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And I'm going to quickly, in fact, start with UNDP India representative. First of all, it's an honor to have you here. Representing UNDP, we've had WHO, we've had UNICEF, and now UNDP. Overall, the way you're aligning with the Government of India and its various verticals in terms of response to COVID-19, now that we have entered lockdown 4 phase, there's a lot of focus on migrant workers and their exit is going back home. With that comes a lot of challenges. But in reality, on ground, UNDP workforce, and what all are you doing in that respect? The departments that you're aligned with in the Government of India, please give us an overview to begin.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation, and happy to be with high-power panelists here. In fact, those that you just mentioned, migrant workers, when I saw those footage of migrant workers returning, we see that there is a vulnerability in the society that we need to tackle. More than 80%, about 85% of workers are in informal sector. Yes. And it's time for us, for the government, for the private sector, and for the development partners to really see how we can more formalize and then make a more inclusive society. So we will be working with the state government and also at the community level to reach out to those who are kind of being left behind, to make yes, and make sure that they are entitled to different social protection schemes. So we want to make sure.
That's a challenging area. How do you manage that? Their entitlements, aligning with the state government and the administration apparatus there. The last man should get his bread and butter. That's extremely important, and that's a challenging area. Do you think in India, considering our population density and economic disparities?
We have to reach. There's no option. So we will be working with some community organizations just to make sure that they are all entitled, they are all informed of their what they are entitled. Also, I'm working with the state government to make sure that they also have information. Okay. We just actually supported the UP government to launch the app to capture the information of those returning migrants.
What is that app?
Sorry, I cannot remember the name, but it's to capture the information of those returning migrants, and we this is for the government officials to reach out to those workers and then enter the information about their skills.
So basically, there's also technical support,
yes,
technical know-how. I want to take a quick reaction from UNICEF. adding to what UNDP is doing, we believe there are lots of reports where it talks about UNICEF strengthening communication and community engagement, especially information seeking in the database that you're working on. Could you elaborate on that?
So
And how is that going to help the government?
it's crucial that we look at those who are most vulnerable. Are they getting the right information at the right time? And what are the channels we're using? So the whole area of risk communication and community engagement is crucial if we are to equip people with how to protect themselves, how they can be in their also be civically responsible in the behavior so that it doesn't spread in the wider community. When it comes to the migrant population or the population on the move, and this has been happening, it's a phenomenon in India. It happens all the time, and children are also part of that. What we are seeing now is it's an opportunity to address some of the issues that didn't get addressed before. So for example, what are the portable benefits, social welfare schemes? If I'm from say Chhattisgarh and I'm working in Maharashtra, do I still get my social benefit schemes? Do my kids still get to go to? So that's important. And now with the whole relook at social protection, it's going to be important that we address some of these challenges that have come to the surface with a even greater urgency now.
Yes.
When it comes to communication, we rely so much on the face-to-face.
Yes.
We're fortunate we're coming here, but most of our work, how we learn, how we communicate has had to change. And in that, it's been important that we still reach out to the people who are trusted the most by the population. And they're the ASHA, the Anganwadi worker.
Very, very relevant point that you have raised, ma'am. In fact, let me quickly have a reaction from Joint Secretary from Panchayati Raj. So in lockdown 4, because I talked about the migrant force, there are lots of challenges and the last mile connectivity, which means that empowering Gram Panchayats, is it taking a center stage? Theoretically, we see there are lots of reports suggesting Odisha model, Chhattisgarh model, but grassroots level, what is happening? And are you seeking help from UNDP and UNICEF? I want to know, sir, the nation would want to know, empowering our panchayats, our Gram Panchayats.
Thank you for that. So panchayats have given an excellent account of themselves so far, right from the time the lockdown 1 started. Panchayats have tremendous responsibility on their shoulders if you were just to look at the constitution. And when all else is obstructed, when your communications break down, you're saying that we have to establish new normals. So you have to fall back onto the leadership that is there. So there are ASHA workers, Swachhagrahis, SHGs, non-government organization who want to do good there. There are so many agencies, there are Corona warriors and all that. So Panchayat has been fulfilling the role of an anchor, bringing this all together.
How are you empowering them? What are you doing for them? Have you increased allocation?
You mentioned the Odisha example. So Odisha, and there have been some people who followed that, the contribution of the panchayats have been acknowledged by no lesser person than the Prime Minister, and that has had a cascading effect. We've had chief ministers one-on-one with several Gram Panchayats. There have been lots of delegation from the Ministry of Panchayati Raj side. I would like to share that the Finance Commission devolution, which used till the last year, which is the previous year, the last year of the 14th Finance Commission, so that is an untied grant, and that was like money in their pocket. So while all else is going to take its natural course before the schemes mature, before the funds reach them based on documentation, this was money that was available with them already, and that is, so we just had to tell them that you go ahead and do it.
So are you going to replicate this model across the country?
It is happening, yes. Yes, that advisory has gone, that wherever you have finance commission funds, you can spend them on sanitation, on having, there are 37,000 isolation centers that have been developed by panchayats in 21 states, varying from state to state, and these are set up in schools and government buildings and wherever they could find rooms. So not all of them are very good, but then things get better. That is the power of, you know, having the local leadership getting involved with this, because with time
Yes.
there is a tendency to improve.
Okay, okay. And in fact now, Mr. Singh, do you think now the whole success of Arogya Setu app, the campaign, the concerted campaign that mygov.in has been running, not only on this but across the spectrum, has been a game changer, especially in COVID crisis, the crisis that we are looking at 24/7, our government is working, forming up all its departments. But mygov.in, what do you think it has got a larger role in this changing paradigm shift of communication?
I would refrain from using the word game changer, but I would like to say that in the limited way, MyGov has been able to communicate to the people on the platforms they are the right messaging, because what happens is that in a crisis like COVID-19, there are a lot of fake news floating around. There are a lot of myths which are there that people rely on WhatsApp forwards and try to believe that if they do this, they will get better. If they don't do this, this will happen, or other kinds of fake news, what happened in China or what happened elsewhere. And based on that, they take certain decisions which might be detrimental to them more than what the virus can do. So what we have been doing is that we've been fighting the fake news. We have been busting myths. We have been communicating the right information, the do's and the don'ts, actual advice from doctors, reputed doctors from AIIMS, from other doctors from reputed hospitals. We have been giving them advice with regard to how to boost your immunity, addressing issues of mental health, and ensuring that the government communications reaches them in a form in which it's easy to comprehend, it's easy to understand. A lot of work which MyGov does is in trying to act as a bridge between the government and the citizens.
Okay.
Because very often citizens do not understand the notifications that the government issues. The language is a bit officialese and bureaucratic. A lot of bureaucratic language is there. So many people are not able to make out of what it does. So what we do is that we break it down into simple infographics. We make videos of that. We make podcasts. We use community radio channels to communicate our messages.
I was coming to the rural. Yes, I'll have your point as well. But how do you reach out to the rural India, where maybe a smartphone not everybody might have access to? Let's be realistic.
Yes, so the MyGov's Prime campaign has been on the social media platforms and our app and our portal. But we realize that there is a challenge of reaching out to people who don't have access to a phone or something. So therein we started using radio as a big medium. And we ensured that all the content that we had, whether it's the Mythbusters or do's and don'ts, the government guidelines, what to do, what not to do, all of it was converted into podcasts. And then we accessed more than 200 community radio operators across the country who volunteered on their own to convert our content into the local languages. And then it was broadcast on the community radio channel. So that expanded our outreach.
Okay.
And over and above, you also asked about the Arogya Setu app.
Yes.
So for the feature phone users for Arogya Setu app, we launched a 1921 Arogya Setu IVRS service so that even though those with feature phones cannot download the app, but they can give a missed call to a toll-free number 1921, and then they immediately get a call back. And when they get a call back, it does the symptom checker on the IVRS line, similar to what we do the self-assessment on the Arogya Setu app.
Okay.
And based on the responses that they give, then they further get callbacks from Ayushman Bharat's call center and identify the people who have shown symptoms and advise them with regard to whether they need testing or whether they need to go to
So the citizen engagement platform my.gov.in is working in tandem with your ministry. I'm going to have a quick word and then Sir can make. Yeah, please go.
So I was just going to say that I want to express my deep gratitude to Abhishek, because for many days I was putting together this daily kind of a digest of stories that I was getting from the field, and I would pass them on to him and he'd convert it into lovely infographics, and they would be all over the place and people would call us back and say what a great job we'd done. I thought I stretched my friendship a little bit because I sent him too much information, but he's been great all along.
Okay. And as far as the information overflow is considered, sir, here comes the bigger role, the larger role, our role, Doordarshan, the national broadcaster. Do you think now digital is also the way forward?
Absolutely. I think as we discussed a few weeks back, this was a pandemic combined with an infodemic.
Yes.
For the first time, you have such a large volume of information that it's very hard to sift what is fact, what is fiction, what is true, what is false. I was just reading yesterday that forget the general information. Even in the world of scientific journals, the volume of papers that has been published since January on COVID is around 23,000 papers. So how do you sift all of that and make sense of where is the research exactly stand, right? So the role of the public broadcaster and mass media becomes extremely important in this environment, and it is a very big challenge, given that we are the only billion people democracy in the planet. There is another billion people country, but it doesn't have the same kind of public accountability that we have, where every action is put to scrutiny across the nation. And the complexity of what we have to do is not just about delivering the message in Hindi or English.
Yes.
It is amplifying it in the various languages, and this is where the role of community radio and a lot of our local radio stations and the innovations that they've done becomes very important. I was just seeing just an hour back that All India Radio Dibrugarh has actually devised a whole bunch of radio plays around social distancing, wearing masks, and so on. And it's so important to reinforce these messages in these creative ways.
And how is UNDP also ramping up your extensive programs, community outreach, the volunteer workforce? And I think I was also reading some papers, some reports which talked about UNDP giving technical support to biomedical waste management.
We have a very large plastic recycle management program, and there we work directly with those waste pickers, and they're the front line. I mean, unlike us who are kind of staying at home and then working through the computer, they are still out there picking, collecting garbage and then sorting out. So we are very concerned about their safety. Together with the private sector partners, we are providing PPE, that protective gears. We are also providing
Is this
food.
to states?
No, this is what do you mean, states?
States.
Well, we are working at the state level, at the community level. So we are working in about 30 different municipalities. So we are very, very concerned about their safety. So that's also one of our priorities, and we are repurposing our programs so that as much as possible, the immediate support can reach all the way to the most vulnerable communities. I just also would like to come back to this digital space that I think it's, yes, digital solution is the way forward, the digital space is the way forward. At the same time, there are people who are illiterate of those, and then that's why I think the radio is very important. Even when I look at my parents, my father doesn't actually use a smartphone. my mother is getting very scattered information and then panicking. So because they do not have that capacity to sort out what is real, what is fake. So it's not only in India, but globally, I think there will be another, how do you say, kind of inequality or disparities coming out of this digital space.
But the way, in fact, I would want Mr. Singh to react on this. The way, not only this platform, but overall the way our government has handled this situation in terms of communication and information compared to other developed nations. Where do you see India? Do you think India has been much ahead of curve?
I think India is, I mean, I've been here only for 1 year, is a society of innovation. I'm impressed with the new ideas, the different apps and digital solutions that we have in the country. I think we should be promoting more of the innovation that India is bringing. And then
you want to comment on that?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, the point has been made.
I think it's very heartening to note.
It's very heartening to note.
Strong words coming in from UNDP.
Yeah, thanks for that. And what we find is that the kind of innovation that comes in with regard to such initiatives, because we gave an idea to someone, to a community radio operator or to any partner. In fact, what PIB did, PIB started doing this PIB fact check. And that was very useful, and then we started taking content from PIB fact check and started doing fact check, and we did it in a very simple infographic manner, so that even if somebody doesn't know English, Hindi or any language, but the cross will be there which will say this is wrong, and the tick will be there, this is right. And then we use WhatsApp as a major platform, because WhatsApp is something which is used widely across the country. So we immediately built our chatbot on WhatsApp, which gave a menu driven driven information. Like if you want to get updates, you want to get more information, if you want to get the helpline number of a particular state, how do you get that? So that really helped us in promoting that. And then similarly we worked with Google for providing information on shelter homes, feeding homes, because when a migrant crisis.
In fact, we'll have a separate question on that, the mapping of shelter homes. I think now lockdown 4 and moving forward, there's going to be lot of focus on that. But before that, a quick word from you, sir. Increasing more cover under PDS, allocating more funds to panchayats. There are lots of reports, certain regions, certain villages, where the Gram Sarpanches have powers almost equivalent to DC. And I think that is the kind of model that the government, are you looking at replicating that sort of a model?
That would be mostly the state's call, actually replicating. It's a state subject, but yes, there is a tremendous, because of all this thing that is built up, this big momentum, and then almost there's a sort of a competition, and people want to outdo each other in empowering the local communities. And with UNICEF, we have enlisted support of 2,800 of their specialists who are all over the country, who are helping the Gram Panchayats with revising their Gram Panchayat development plans so that they could align it more with the requirements of this pandemic, as also the 15th Finance Commission guidelines. With particular, there have been, if you could divide it into verticals, these self-help group and the PRI convergence has been a massive story, where the self-help groups, particularly in Assam and Bihar, they are making these 3-layered masks. They are preparing soap. This soap is being bought off the self-help groups by the panchayats using the Finance Commission funds, and it's been marketed. So you've created this big enterprise all locally. There have been thousands of such endeavors that I keep hearing about, that I've shared with you. Migrant returning, it's a developing story, of course. There are, we are all part of the bell curve. There are good news and bad news and all that, but the good thing is that the bad news is getting better and better. And so because of this effect, there is a constant endeavor to try and improve over what has been achieved so far. The IEC, that's a very important thing, the information campaign in the beginning. So there have been outstanding wall paintings, things that people have got done using rickshaws and, you know, their vans. They're going around. There have been spontaneous street plays. Some of those wall things are so beautiful, I thought that we can have a contest or something.
This is at the rural level?
Yes, absolutely. They are outstanding. In the slides that I have brought you, some of those things are there. And so it's very heartening. Of course, it's reflected glory. There's very little of it that's been done personally by me or even my ministry. It's people who are doing it. But it's a great comfort to see it, because those 29 sectors that are mapped onto Gram Panchayats are across about 18 different ministries. And every year when we run a campaign for Gram Panchayat development plan, it's such an effort to try and get everybody on board so that all their resources could be pooled and converged and people could do their thing. But right now, in this opportunity really that has come the Panchayat's way, they've given an outstanding account of themselves. Generally.
And how is UNICEF looking at that? I can see you smiling, ma'am, but then there's one aspect you would agree has been a challenging area. The whole discrimination part of it, the ostracization when migrant workforce, they go back. We are dealing with the vulnerable section, those who don't really understand why the world has changed and what has really happened to them. There were reports suggesting UNICEF is doing a lot of programs, community outreach programs at the rural level in tandem with this ministry. What all ground are you covering?
So absolutely.
The stigma part of it.
The stigma part is so important, and in fact the Ministry of Health brought us all together, all UN and development partners, and UNICEF has taken on the role of working together or coordinating the whole effort to address what are the myths out there, and so, you know, popularizing the right information, but also bringing in the values, right, the core values of respect to people, of understanding to the situation, the empathy that we have to feel. When we see health workers being discriminated against, when we see people who have very little, desperate to get home, being discriminated against, when we see children who have been walking hundreds of miles with their parents because they believe that that's the right place for them to get to. And I think at the same time we've seen the volunteerism, people along the street handing out water, handing out food packages. And this volunteerism spirit that we've seen coming in response to COVID has been crucial, I think, as part of it. It tells a story of how people feel for each other. So it's really about how do we shun the behavior that is disrespectful, that targets people, that targets communities, and how do we promote behavior that is empathetic, that is caring, that is respectful. How do we package all this and do it in a way where we don't have face-to-face anymore. We can't sit with a whole group of people and talk about it. And I think this is where, again, we go back to our frontline workers, to the ASHA, Anganwadi, ANMs, the Swachhagrahis, the GP members who are out there trying to take it to that next step. Now, we've been really fortunate that it's been a new norm in terms of training.
Okay.
So we've trained over 1.5 million
Okay.
frontline workers.
Okay.
And it's all been done through Zoom and WebEx and with whatever device they have available. So this
Okay.
is how we've managed to train people. We estimate that just through Swachhagrahis alone, they have reached over 5.6 million people with the messaging about hygiene, about protecting yourself, about physical distancing, about what measures need to be taken, protecting the elderly and the very young.
Young, yes.
So this shows that it's still possible. Then we have to ask ourselves, so who is being left out? And I think it goes back to the point that Shoko and you were also raising, that those who don't have the smartphones,
Yes.
how is the information getting to them?
Yes.
Those who don't have access, you know, we say we've reached about 32 million children with remote learning. But what about the kids who don't have, no one in their family has a device for them to access? And that's where, again, how we tap into our other partners who are really at the grassroots. So the community radios,
Yes.
absolutely.
Do we have a plan for this section? What she pointed out,
Community
those who
radio?
don't have access to technology. Are we doing something about them, both of you, and then I'll come to Sir. Yes.
Please.
Yeah, in fact, if you have seen the presentation that the finance minister made yesterday, in fact, it was addressed in that presentation also.
Okay.
There is a program that that is run called Swayam Prabha. It's run on the DTH platform. It has got 32 channels right now, which has got content, educational content in various languages that is broadcast on the DTH platform. So it goes to TVs which are there in the either in the panchayats or in the schools that exists. And yesterday it has been decided that 12 more channels will be added, and there will be one channel for each class, class 1, class 2, class 2, so that those who don't have an access to a device or to even a television at their home, they can go to a public place within the village where they will get quality content, and the airtime has been divided to be given to all the states in all their languages. So that's how one of the approaches that is being done is that. And then there are other initiatives in various states, like Bihar has an initiative called iSaksham and Turn the Bus, in which they use technology even with low cost phones. Like one phone can help teach 5 students,
Okay.
and they have maths teachers doing classes on WhatsApp video calls and all. So that has also become very popular. We keep on getting, like MyGov also gets a lot of citizen stories with regard to good work being done by the community apart from what the government does, and we source that, and very often people share it on the social media, tag us, and then we further share, because the idea is to become a force multiplier. Like
Yes.
if 10 people are doing, tomorrow 100 should do
Yes,
it.
Mr. Singh, you talked about force multipliers, sir. Here again, the role of Doordarshan comes because the robust regional network, which is at our disposal, in fact, at the nation's disposal during the current COVID-19 crisis. A little bit more about how DD now plans to take this lockdown forward and thereafter head on, because I think this whole communication thing it's only going to also be a force multiplier, broaden up new norms, new strategies, new outreach programs.
Yeah, absolutely, and let me thank CEO MyGov for so lucidly explaining the role that DTH is playing.
Yes.
So those 32 channels will be received in households because of DD Free Dish, because DD Free Dish set-top boxes can not only deliver the Doordarshan channels and the 80 odd private entertainment and news channels, but also these 40 odd educational channels of HRD and other public entities. So today, if India is able to deliver mass education during the lockdown so that the school year is not lost, it is because of this public infrastructure that we've built, which reaches into 40 million households. In fact, there was a very good editorial in the Singapore Straits, which called out 2 countries, saying, you know, these are the 2 countries which are actually working to ensure the school year is not lost, Thailand and India, because of this public TTH infrastructure that we have. So it's very unique. Also, I wanted to talk about the fact check unit that you were referring to, the PIB fact check. So a key enabler, force multiplier for the PIB fact check is the Prasar Bharati news service that we've created, which is working in tandem with the government in quickly amplifying, you know, what is the correct factual position on any rumor or any news item, or, you know, general perceptions that are, you know, are going around in terms of anonymous videos and fake videos and so on. So one of the things that we've done is that we have enabled access to local print media through our Telegram channel to get all of this content in real time, so that this ultimately reaches the grassroots through the various vernacular print media. So so this Telegram channel is open and it's available to, you know, any of the media houses. So I'd like them to, you know, take advantage of it, so that it's not just the TV channels and digital media which is amplifying all this information, but ultimately it also you know, finds its way to print media. One of the things I've noticed is that the newspapers have become less bulky of late because there's less to print. So there's, you know, there's so much of free information that we're giving. So take advantage of it.
Okay. And what is UNDP's plan of action now? Let's now focus on the way forward. The challenges that you're looking at, and especially the whole community engagement thing. Again, a little bit more focus on rural India. The programs that are running, your volunteers, that your frontline soldiers, your foot soldiers, because at the end of the day, it is no matter how much we talked about digital way, but when we come to villages, the rural level, it's always that one-on-one with social distancing, and that's the challenge.
So COVID crisis is not really only the health crisis, but the development emergency that we have never experienced before. And I think once lockdown is over, now it's time to also really plan how to support those returning migrants and those who are affected, who may not have food to eat next day. So UNDP is also trying to support those most vulnerable populations for their jobs, their livelihood opportunities. For lively opportunities, we will be working very closely with community organizations to provide some grants and also training, so that they can maybe have different livelihood opportunities to be back. And also, as I said, that we will be also reaching out to those who are left behind in terms of social protection. So we would like to make sure that they know what their entitlements are. So we are reaching out.
Is in place? Are you in touch with some states?
Yes, we have offices in different states, so we will be working very closely with them, because in the end, in order to reach out to the communities, we have to do that through states.
Yes. UNICEF?
So I think for us this is a great opportunity to leverage our existing partnerships. So we have offices that in 13 locations, and we cover about 25 states and union territories. And they're really going forward with the package of risk communication, community engagement, the whole supporting hospitals, health centers.
What are the challenges that you're
schools
confronted with?
in getting infection prevention and control going? I think the challenge is going to be, how do we reach, like you call, the last mile? So the digital divide, we know that more men have access to digital technology, less women. Even boys, among boys and girls, more boys have access. So what is the way in which we can increase the reach and access to them? How do we look at continuing this busting the myths? That's a big challenge. I think one of the bigger ones is going to be, how do we get the critical essential services to keep on going? For health, nutrition, water and sanitation, education, these are all services that are going to have to reimagine the strategies. So how do we do an immunization session? How do we do a village health and sanitation day? And this is where working very closely with the Ministry of Health here at the union level, but also at the state level, to come up with protocols. How do you organize a session? How do you keep the social distancing? How do you make sure that infection prevention control measures are in place? Are hand washing facilities available in all health centers, all schools, all Anganwadi centers? So these are some of the things that we're going to have to continue leveraging. But also the partnerships, and I think that's been one of the biggest strengths, that we've been able to move faster. If I look at UNICEF social media platform, we've added 700,000 followers since we started in this response. So for us, the
During
message
COVID crisis,
during the COVID
700,000 followers.
we've added, and we see this as being a sign of trust.
Yes.
That people, especially young people, are coming to our sites to get information. How do we connect them to the right information sites, etc.? But also, we reach about 100 million people on average every week.
Okay.
So how do we sequence the messaging depending upon how the whole response is going? And then we're always very appreciative of the role Doordarshan plays and All India Radio, because what we've seen is, you know, having Meena, which tells stories about that have messages for children plus very gender sensitive and savvy messages in it. Adha Phul, which is a series that captured the imagination of young people around. I think this is also and we're really appreciative of Doordarshan for taking this forward, because when there's
Let me take the liberty of congratulating our CEO, the family, the Doordarshan family. But then, having said that, sir, what is the plan next in terms of taking this vision forward?
So one is, I think, a lot of content that UNICEF has very kindly shared with us has been now put on air starting today. So a lot of the interesting content which had aired in the past, we are again, putting it out to engage kids, engage adolescents. So that's very important. We have partnered with all the state governments so that the regional channels of Doordarshan and the regional radio stations are dedicating at least a minimum of 1 hour and a maximum of as many hours as the state can afford to deliver mass education in the language, adhering to the curriculum of that region, that state. And I'm also seeing that a lot of this content, they've also given us permission to carry it digitally as well on YouTube.
Okay.
So if someone misses it, if there's a power cut, if they couldn't watch the session live on television, they always have the opportunity to go and watch it on YouTube subsequently. And I'm seeing it as a huge success, be it Bihar, be it Andhra, be it Karnataka, and so on. So this will go on in terms of engaging the kids and engaging the youth. I think the bigger challenge will be, as rightly pointed out, was livelihoods. How do we reskill the migrants?
Yes.
How do we create new economic opportunities? And I think this is where I see our channels like Kisan, for example,
Yes.
playing an
DD
important role,
Kisan, yes.
where Kisan is not just giving information about the crops, the weathers, the prices in the markets, but also a lot of skill-oriented communication that can be delivered through DD Kisan. So our entire collection of touch points, be it the TV channels, the radio stations, and the digital presence that we have, will play a key role in taking this forward, especially with what the Prime Minister has laid out as our roadmap for Atmanirbharta, or self-reliance.
Yes. Atmanirbhar Bharat, as we close this, quick points from both of you. Panchayati Raj, again, I'm going to go back to from where I started, making them not only the focal point, but actually empowering the Gram Panchayats. And do you think that's going to be one big solution that we are looking at? Lockdown 4 may end today or tomorrow, but then with that, there's going to be a lot of work in progress. The migrant force wanting to come back or staying back, like Sir pointed out, skilled labor, employment opportunity generation, and much more.
One aspect is that a lot of states, they call them by different names, but there are Nigrani Samitis in some places. In Uttar Pradesh, there is Karnataka, there is the task force. In all states, there in Madhya Pradesh, it's a band of youth who are doing this. But there are people who are dedicated to regulating and to checking the status of the migrants who are coming in. the states have been told through the Panchayat Raj machinery that they must strictly abide by the instructions that have been passed by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and make sure that all those benchmarks are strictly met. There are cases of panchayats flying drones to ascertain the status of the isolation centers, how
Really?
they're being
And what are these
administered.
states?
This is Himachal Pradesh really. So
Brilliant.
there one Gram Panchayat Pradhan has done it. People have designed, tunnels for sanitizing and all. So that's happened in some place in UP. And you mentioned that skills would have to be developed.
Yes.
So the Ministry of Panchayati Raj together with the MSDE, we are looking at this aspect that maybe at least in some pilots, we would be looking to do a status check of the skill force that is now suddenly available and how we can find a match with the work that can be supported out there in the panchayats. And panchayat strengthening is the best thing that could really come out of all this because that is something that's so essential.
So you feel that this is really going to take center stage when we talk about way
Absolutely.
forward planning to
Yes.
come out of it fully. And final comments from you, Mr. Singh. MyGov.in being such an engaging citizen platform, in fact, Prime Minister has once again asked the nation to come up with ideas for the forthcoming Man Ki Baat edition. But then especially the larger role that this platform is now going to play in coming times.
See, MyGov has been doing this for a long time, and now the challenge is much more.
Okay.
Because as we go ahead and we are looking at not only saving lives but saving livelihoods, and as we open up, like lockdown 4.0 is while the lockdown has been extended till 31st May, but if you look at it, the finer details, most of the activities in all areas other than the containment zones have been allowed. So while we do that, will we go on with the Manrega works, with other developmental works, with businesses start functioning, shops start functioning, then what is it that will save us? That is behavioral change. And behavioral change in respect of use of mask, use of social distancing, use of better hygiene measures, hand washing, using sanitizers. So these are the things that will have to be drilled down through various channels, because as Indians it has not been our culture of maintaining distances. We are people who love to hug, who love to meet, and do not really know the physical distance concept per se, the Western concept of physical distancing. So when you have to drive these changes and behavioral change has to be brought in, it will require a lot of communication tools, and communication tools in various formats. It can be videos, it can be audios, it can be actual scenarios which are shown, and then it will have to be not on a government website or a government portal, it will have to be on the social media where people are there. We found that for the COVID-19 we started a campaign on TikTok, over which we were not there earlier. We found 5 million users within no time. In 3 weeks we got 5 million users. And our the stigma you mentioned, for the stigma we got Amitabh Bachchan to do a video for us, and the Amitabh Bachchan video had a reach of more than 20 million in 24 hours for that. So what happens
And
is
that did cut ice with the people.
yeah, that cuts ice, because when they
The
see
section that you were targeting.
yeah, so we are at these and when we do the social media analytics, we find that the people who are there on platforms like TikTok and Hello, they are not on Twitter.
Okay.
They are not on Facebook. So very often we think only in terms of social media, Instagram and Twitter, and which is very often people like us. But the tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, the regional language content, so all these platforms are very active there. And then we started Setu Mera Bodyguard campaign for promotion of Arogya
Could you
Setu.
tell us more about that mapping app?
Yeah, see,
Because I think that's going to play a very critical role now onwards. We're looking at the migrant workforce, their location, dislocation, etc.
See, what we did was that it was instantly, we did it very quickly in collaboration with Google and the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. What happened was that when this whole thing came up, a lot of migrants were walking from Delhi towards Noida, and a lot of halagulla happened for that. Then immediately there was a need, when we spoke to the administration, every state said that they have set up shelter homes, they have set up feeding centers wherein the migrants can go, and those who are in need of food or shelter can go there and get that. But the problem was that nobody knew where they are. So what we
Okay.
did was that we identified, we asked them to give us their locations, we plotted them on social media, and then we reached out to NGOs and all who had registered with us and with Niti Aayog, and said that through them you please spread this message, ki like there is a shelter home, there is a feeding home near your place. And we got around 700 data for around 700 plus cities
Okay.
put up on Google Maps, and then became like shelter home near me. When you go and search on shelter on that, you will be able to find that. And so that was done. Then we later on put the same data on Map My India also. Google helped us to put up a chatbot on the map, which was the first, which is the first for which they did. Like when you search a shelter home on, when you search MyGov on Google Maps, you get a chatbot there, and when you go there, your queries are answered by a bot. So that really helped us in spreading the information, and that is what has been our prime objective. So what I see is that as we go ahead and as we look into with the increased Manrega allocations, like 40,000 crores has additionally been allocated to that. So a lot of migrants, when they go back home, they will find work, which will help in creating durable assets in the villages, water conservation works, and with the increased PDS allocations for the poor, and with DBT, again technology, the role DBT has played in this whole last 2 months. So just because we had the platform of Aadhaar, the mobile and the Jan Dhan bank
Yes,
accounts,
yes.
we were able to transfer almost 50,000 crores of
Instantly,
rupees
yes.
to beneficiaries within no time.
Yes.
So that led to, like, whether it was the 500 rupees for the women Jan Dhan account holders, or whether it was the PM Kisan advance which was paid. So all that really helped us in reaching out to the poor and the needy.
Okay.
And now with PDS given to even migrants,
Okay.
and with the one nation, one ration card approach, I think we are, though not all problems have been solved with regard to migrants and the poor,
Okay.
but we are fairly better off as compared to what could have been otherwise.
It's an evolving situation, and you're saying that you're ready
Yeah.
to deal. Obviously, and final, we need to wrap up the show. So, final comments now. We started with the whole narrative, how the communication pattern or narrative has changed. How do you now define this? If you have to just sum it up, this whole communication shift becoming new normal and making this new normal now a way of our lives, whether it is a ministry like Panchayati Raj, which is there to take care of our rural India, or apex organizations like United Nations, UNDP, UNICEF, collaborating with the government, or these fantastic digital platforms like mygov.in, plus of course Doordarshan, the national channel.
See, the way the pandemic is evolving, we are learning new things every week, right? So communication has to be agile. It has to be targeted, because the problems of migrants in certain part of the country may be very different from certain other parts of the country. So you have to be very targeted, you have to be real time, and you have to be very adaptive to, as things evolve and our understanding of this virus changes, the science changes, and ultimately we get to the point of, delivering the vaccines and, all the measures that are needed for us to go back to, being fully productive within the economy. And the Prime Minister has given a roadmap for self-reliance, Atmanirbharta, and I think mass media especially has a very important role to play. Unfortunately, in the last few weeks, mass media has tended to focus a lot more on journalism of misery,
Yes.
while I think there is a lot more potential for journalism of hope, journalism of resilience, and I think that is where we need to focus on, and hopefully that with that message we lift the entire masses of India back to normal, in this new normal that you
I think so you've summed it up beautifully, the new normal in communication. Let's shift our focus from showcasing or propagating the journalism of misery to journalism of hope, and I think that's the new communication normal that we all have been imbibing, and we have to imbibe more, the good part of it, the good things of it. Thank you so much, high-powered panel, for joining us on DD Dialogue. UNDP India representative Ms. Shoko Noda, thank you so much. UNICEF India representative Dr. Yasmin Ali Haq, also mygov.in CEO Abhishek Singh, and I also thank Panchayati Raj Ministry Joint Secretary Shri Alok Nagar, as well as our CEO Prasad Bharati Shri Shashi Shekhar Vempati. And on that note, viewers, thank you very much for tuning in to this very special episode of DD Dialogue on National Channel Doordarshan. We'll be back with more in few days to come. Take care of yourself. Namaskar.